Topics like race, religion, equality, and immigration are all such polarizing issues these days. It's easy to feel that America has never been more divided. Yet in the midst of this critical time, our next guest says we've been here before, and there's reason to hope rather than fear. That's some good news for you. That's the premise of The Soul of America. It's the latest book from Pulitzer Prize-winning presidential historian Jon Meacham, who we are proud to claim as a Nashville resident. It's great to have you with us.
Thanks so much.
All right, so let's talk about this book, at pivotal times you're describing throughout the book when a sitting president changes the trajectory for the American people.
Absolutely.
Why is it important to know these stories?
Well, if you just know what's going on right now, it can be rather depressing, no matter where you stand. If you're pro-Trump, you probably sent him to Washington because you were very unhappy with the way the country was and is headed. If you're somewhat skeptical of the president, then you are waking up every morning wondering what's going to be tweeted at you. And my sense is if you know that things have been difficult in the past, but we've overcome it, and we've managed to get to higher ground, then there's reason to hope and not to be anxious all the time.
Sure. Which presidents do you think have been most effective throughout history in kind of changing the hearts and minds of the American people during a difficult time?
Unquestionably Abraham Lincoln, who himself evolved from 1861 until his death. Franklin Roosevelt saved democratic capitalism. There was a live question in the early 1930s about whether the American system would make it through that decade. Harry Truman always did the right thing colorfully with a lot of strong language. President Johnson, Lyndon Johnson, was a white Southerner who did the right thing on civil rights. I'm an admirer of President Reagan's. I'm a biographer of George H.W. Bush, and so I think he did an enormous amount to, as he put it, try to make the country kinder and gentler.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, our American story is always going to have peaks and valleys. Sure. What are some common threads that you think run throughout those times when we've been able to move from a dark place to a place of hope? A
very engaged citizenry. We can't simply vote and then just sit back and watch television. You've got to stay involved. You've got to stay engaged in the work of government. And so whether you support the president or don't support the president, you have to be in the arena. I think you also have to have a critical balance. You have to understand that no president is perfect. He's going to have good days and bad days. He's going to have make good calls and make bad calls. That's just the nature of things. Theodore Roosevelt once said, "A politician is never as great as his fans think, nor is he ever as bad as his foes think." And I think there's a lot to that.
There is. What gives you the most hope for our future?
That we've overcome all this in the past. That we forged a republic out of the wilderness, that we've survived a civil war, a cataclysmic civil war. We've fulfilled the promise of that war. It took us a century from Appomattox to the Voting Rights Act. At every point, the country has become stronger the wider it's opened its arms. The wider, and that's not a partisan point in any way. It's simply a historical data point. We are the strongest country the world has ever known. The largest Air Force in the world is the United States Air Force. The second largest is the United States Navy's. So we're doing just fine. And we've created a system where our immigration issue is that people want to come here. And I think if we're true to equal opportunity, to fair play, not equality of outcome, we can't have that. There are going to be winners and there are going to be people who don't win as much. But we have to give everybody an equal shot at success to be true to what the founders wanted and what's made us so strong.
Yeah, and understanding that history is an important reason to read this book. Thank you so much.
Thanks, bro.
Appreciate you being with us. You can meet Jon at a book signing and hear a discussion of the new book with Governor Bill Haslam. It's coming up this Saturday. All the details are online at parnassusbooks.net.